and every one of you. Well, I'm Priyanka Lalwani. I'm going to be your host today. And we're here at the 5th annual edition of India International Brand Summit here at the majestic JW Marriott Juhu. Let's give it up for each and every one of you for taking out your time. And thank you so much for joining us here today. Today, we are here gathered amongst these incredible people, you all, the people who are going to be on the panel here with India's brightest minds for branding, marketing, and digital innovation. Today's event promises an engaging and insightful experience, celebrating the best marketing minds in India. As an annual gathering, this summit is a premier platform for discussing trends and current market realities. It offers a unique opportunity for knowledge exchange, networking, and recognizing the remarkable contributions of the marketing professionals. And I hope that you all are set now because you guys are going to have an interesting time over here because we have a panel prepared for you where you'll get insights that will set the growth agenda for the years to come. And to kick off, we present our first session that is titled Branded Content and Storytelling in the Streaming Era. This session will explore how brands can evolve their storytelling to meet the heightened expectation of audiences who are now shaped by the quality, pace, and depth of streaming content. So today, joining us on stage, we have Aditya Kanthy, CEO and MD of Omnicom Advertising Group India. Aditya brings a rich background in strategy and leadership across top creative networks, starting with DTB Mudra in 2003. He's played a key role in shaping one of India's leading integrated marketing groups, a champion of inclusion. He has led initiatives like the Phyllis Project and Open Pride. Aditya has served prestigious juries at Cannes and Spikes Asia and has been recognized with top awards for creative strategic excellence. Aditya Kanthy, everyone. Then next, we have Pradeep Dwivedi, Group CEO of EROS Media World. Mr. Pradeep is a seasoned leader with a proven track record across media, telecom, BFSI, and energy sector. Known for driving business transformation, he brings deep expertise in revenue growth, strategic partnership, and digital innovation in media and entertainment. Pradeep Dwivedi, everyone. Then we have Anuja Trivedi, Chief Marketing Officer at Shemaroo Entertainment, with over 15 years of experience in strategy and media. Anuja is the Chief Marketing Officer at Shemaroo Entertainment. She leads marketing strategy, driving growth and consumer engagement through creativity and consumer focus. Anuja's expertise in market trends and strategic leadership has been key to Shemaroo's expansion. Anuja, everyone. And then we have our moderator of this panel, Abhishek Mazumdar, co-founder and CEO of The Logical Indian. A visionary entrepreneur and champion of socially conscious media, Abhishek serves as co-founder and CEO of The Logical Indian, where he's redefined digital journalism by amplifying underrepresented stories and driving social impact through the mission Awareness for Action. So that's Abhishek Mazumdar, also our moderator. Give it up for our panelists, everyone. I think they deserve a little more applause collectively. All right, now I hand it over to you, Abhishek, and you can take it over. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And good evening, everyone. I'm just taking this opportunity once again to welcome everyone here. And I'm truly honored to be able to moderate this panel. So thank you so much, everyone. And I once again welcome all our panelists. All right. So how do we start? Cool. So I think let's start on a fun note. This one question which I have, I just want to have your insights or inputs from your end. So I would just like to ask all of you that what is that, one recent web series or show which actually stood out to you, and probably why? So, maybe you can just start. Yes, with Anuja? Yeah, sure.
Hello. Is it audible? Yeah, okay, yeah. Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Excited to be here. I think the one content piece that I truly enjoyed in recent times is actually Diplomat.
Wow.
I think the entire journey of this lady from being a reluctant candidate to be the British ambassador, and her journey to now say, okay, now I'm going to be the, I will be the candidate for vice president of the US. I think, and the entire intrigue and state espionage and stuff like that. Will she, won't she? And there's a lot of drama around it. So I think that whole journey of the underdog and how she's sort of, now coming into her own is a show that I really, really enjoyed. Netflix.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Anuja. I'll just move on to Pradeep.
Sure. First off, good afternoon, everybody. It's so good to see all of you taking time this afternoon and being here. And I kind of wanted to start off by thanking Omnicom Production, Omnicom Advertising Group, Omnicom Media Group, for putting this group together. I'm hoping the content and the discussion that we're going to have here is not just going to be limited to this room, but also sort of results in conversations going forward for all of us. I'm absolutely open to have conversations with you after this session is over. So feel free to just catch hold of me and share your thoughts if you have any. As regards content, we are sort of living in an era of content proliferation. There's just so much content coming our way that our ability to actually absorb that and be able to respond to that is limited. At EROS, we are essentially a film studio acquiring, distributing, producing, and co-producing films. So that's an area which is of professional interest to me and personal interest to me. The web series that I've kind of really loved recently is an Apple TV series called The Studio. It stars Seth Rogen as this newly appointed president and CEO of a fictional studio called Continental, clearly designed after Warner Brothers or Universal, you take your pick. And the life that he lives and the chaos that he goes through is a bit of a dark comedy that appeals to my senses in many ways, but is also reflective of the times that we live in the sheer number of challenges that is coming in the content ecosystem and the way the content ecosystem is today interacting with branded advertising and the advertising ecosystem in general. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Awesome choices, I must say. Yeah. Aditya?
As an advertising man, Pradeep, I'm always happy to take credit that's not due. But in this case, this show is all Omnicom production, Magnon Designery, and talent tracks doing, and I'm just happy to live in reflected glory. but all Omnicom siblings. Well, mine is not so much, it's not fun, right? It's a show that I loved very much. It's not a fun show by any stretch of the imagination. I should try and pronounce it right, but I always get it wrong. It's Adolescence. I don't know if you've seen the show. It's a brilliant show. It's wonderfully crafted. The performances are stunning, but it also has added meaning to me because I'm a parent, a father to an 8-year-old boy. And for Rashmi, my wife, and I think to experience that story and to see those ideas of what it means to be a man reflected in a 13-year-old boy, and I won't give anything away. If you haven't seen the show, you must watch it. It was deeply moving, quite disturbing, but also felt very real, right, in terms of the kinds of challenges that modern parenting presents. Right. So it was a great show, but I think as a father, it meant more to me to watch it.
Absolutely. So can I
think it was more disturbing than enjoyable, but
but a great show,
a sign of times to come. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a 12-year-old, so closer to the truth than you are. Yeah.
Can I say that it's the storytelling which stood out? I mean, especially for you, right?
No doubt. Yeah,
so I think that brings us to the topic of our panel, which is branded content and storytelling in the streaming era. Yes. So yeah, I think undoubtedly even I feel that storytelling has got way more recognition in the streaming era, and that's my personal opinion, I'm just sharing mine, it has got way more recognition in this streaming era in the last 5-6 years than ever, probably. And I just see that, this going better and better year on year, and I hope it does, so we all benefit from it. Right. Sure, thank you. So, talking of OTTs, Anuja, I have a question for you. That while obviously it has been, I can say, close to a decade of mainstream OTT in India, if I can say that. Of lately, we are seeing a trend of regional OTTs, climbing up the charts. So I just want to learn from you, have your perspective. Do you really feel that, regional OTTs in the last, couple of, especially after the COVID era, do you really feel that, regional OTTs like Stage, which is for the Haryanvi region, and maybe Hoichoi, which is for West Bengal and Calcutta, these are really cropping up among the regional audience. So what's your view on that? And most importantly, do you see that the regional OTTs can eventually become a premium revenue source, be it through advertisement or subscription? Because right now I feel that it is still seen as tier 2 and tier 3 audiences, and advertisers are not that keen. That's my opinion. So I just want to have your opinion, and then you can follow along.
Okay, so I think at Shemaroo, first of all, we are the leading OTT for Gujarati content in India. We have an app called Shemaroo Me, which is the biggest, OTT app for Gujarati content. So coming to your question, I think in terms of content, even if you see the way TV content grew in India, or the way, sports has sort of expanded, cricket has expanded its reach. I think when commentary went regional is when, cricket has truly expanded. Or when, the same GEC started coming in Tamil and Telugu and Bengali and Marathi. I think TV viewing expanded. It just didn't, sort of steal from Hindi. People are always, looking forward to watching content in the language they are most comfortable in. And therefore, I think there is definitely a place for regional OTTs. I think there is a place for that OTT to truly sort of, capture the nuance of the region, which when you're talking to all of HSM is always going to be hard. And I'm taking HSM because, that's where we play. So with Gujarat, I think that is the whole nuance, that you are telling stories which are true to the heartland, which matter to the consumer there, and which is relevant for literally Gujaratis all over the world. So while you give the example of Stage, I think when you take Hoichoi or Shemaroo Me, our appeal is not at all to BCD. In fact, our biggest markets are Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Baroda, Surat, those kind of markets.
Even abroad, right?
Even abroad, a large market in the US actually.
Yes, it's a large
because
market.
there is a diaspora which is watching this content, which has grown up on this content, and which wants the next generation to sort of, use this content to feel more rooted.
Yes.
And that is, to my mind, that authenticity, that connect to the roots is what regional can give. And therefore, I think there is a place for regional OTTs for sure in this, every OTT has its space, and regional will have that space in the consumer's life where you will go back to when you want to get that comfort, that authenticity, that only Gujarat can be the place where the story is told, and only Gujarati is a language where the story can be told best. So that is my view on regional OTTs. Your question on AVOD versus SVOD, I think at Shemaroo what we have seen is that for AVOD you need a certain base, you need a certain MAU to be able to truly play that big AVOD game, versus SVOD where truly if a consumer values you, there is a big paying audience in India and is happy to pay for content. So we have always believed in the SVOD philosophy when it comes to regional, and that's the route that has worked for us.
That's great. Thank you, Anuja. Even talking of Stage, I just learned that even they have introduced a mode for paying by cash. Users are even paying by cash, and they just go doorstep to collect, and that's how it's evolving. I'm probably living in tier 1 cities. we don't realize, and obviously, people running the show, they realize, but if that's a trend, I mean, it indicates a very growing market demand. Pradeep, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree and echo the sentiments that Anuja has been speaking about. The fact is that India is such a large market with very clear regional nuances of culture, history, language, and identifying with certain social trends that are very rooted in that particular subsegment of the society. So therefore, the content that we produce or the stories that we narrate have to be reflective of that audience and appeal to that audience, and that is why regional OTTs are today gaining strength. When you juxtapose that with the layer of branded content, then the story becomes rather interesting. Now, what is branded content? On one hand, you have brands that are trying to get into the entertainment experience of the consumer, thereby embedding themselves in the mindset of the consumer, right? So what ends up happening is that a lot of brands wants to insert themselves in the narrative of the story that is being built. And that may or may not lend itself to the most ideal outcome in terms of the content itself. Now, it is one thing for a brand to say, okay, I want a branded content which is a story or a narrative around my brand, and that will then get seeded in all the social media channels, etc., and therefore lead to our brand being recalled, and that's perfectly fine and kosher. The issue really happens is that when you have a brand team coming and telling, okay, here is your story, this is the narrative that you're building, and these are the kind of cast that you have. How can you place our brand in that content?
True.
And that poses genuine problem for most of the marketers. I think from brand owners and for people who are working in the branded content space, the most important factor from my perspective as a content supplier or a content creator is that you should feel comfortable in the brand being seen in that environment of that story. The concept of brand safety and the brand context should not be lost in the eagerness to get the brand out there. And that is why it is very important that creative houses, streamers such as Shemaroo or EROS or a bunch of others need to be very conscious of the fact that their partnership with brands has to be one which is symbiotic, one which is based on the rooted reality of the Indian market context, whether in regional languages or in mainstream languages. And also, therefore, the stories kind of allow the brand to get benefited from it rather than being challenged because of it. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Thank you, Pradeep. So, Pradeep, I really love the way you emphasized on probably contextual brand integration, right? So, if I may ask you that, are there, just for our audience, that are there any prominent example which might you feel of branded content integration in the recent times, which you are impressed with? It may be your effort or anyone else's. I leave it up to you.
Sure. So I mean, given the fact that we and I think our partners or organizers work with multiple brands, I don't think it will be fair to take specific name brands in an Indian context. So let me take it overseas just to exemplify that point.
Sure.
And I'll take you back to the example of the web series that I spoke about. So I spoke about the Apple TV web series called The Studio. Now, one of the episodes in that series is about this product called Kool-Aid, which now wants to do a Kool-Aid movie, right? Kool-Aid, as you know, is a red color beverage, very popular in the US. It's seen as an energy drink. It's not very dissimilar to some of the red color high energy drinks that is floating around in India, now at lower price points compared to the one which is named after an animal. so the interesting thing is...
How tough have you made it for us?
You're playing so safe.
So the point is that in US, that particular brand, Kool-Aid, is known for a Jonestown cult massacre where every follower was given that Kool-Aid laced with poison and he was killed. So it has a very negative connotation attached with it. And yet, the brand wants to undo that negative connotation and do a positive spin on the story. So what they are trying to do is they're trying to do this Kool-Aid man into a superhero. Now, the reality of the business is that in such examples, the brand trying to outdo its history or trying to morph its image just by branded content isn't going to succeed. I think fundamentally the brand's values and the brand's salience needs to speak for itself before it is integrated into a story narrative. So I would say that there are enough similar examples in India where brands have gone out of the way to insert themselves in the backdrop of a movie. I mean, it is okay for fast-moving consumer products because they are everyday use products and do not themselves have any attributes that may be challenging for the audience to, accept. The audience may find it, yes, it's part of the story, it's part of the narrative. If you're using X toothpaste versus Y toothpaste, it's pretty much the same. But when it comes to content which is expanding a particular product which has disproportionate market share or that has negative social attributes to it, and therefore trying to whitewash or content wash the content or the brand by way of using the content, that's where it becomes very tricky and very narrow.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of pause
I get
there.
it. No, I mean, that certainly helps. I just wanted the audience to relate more as well, because, I just wanted to ensure that we're not getting too technical and there's no disconnect with the audience. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pradeep, for your wonderful insights. So just moving on to Aditya. Aditya, there's, as Pradeep spoke about, the importance of contextual brand integration. From your lenses, I would, love for you to help all of us know that when it comes to measuring the outcomes, right? Where do we stand at an industry level? Where do we stand? Are we still measuring the outcome of branded content integrations through the traditional KPIs like reach or impressions, or do you see there are more more KPIs or measurements evolving, which are a better measurement of the business outcome of branded content integration, because there's someone who is spending dollars on getting things done. So how do we measure the outcome so that the next investment is not only strategic but also yields results?
Yeah, great question. And before we get to measurement, I think you've got to be clear about the frame in which you measure branded content. And I think Pradeep was being very, very kind, very generous in his assessment of most branded content. The honest truth is it's terrible, right? Most branded content efforts are poor, right? And that happens because a lot of the things that you mentioned, which are required for any form of, which is what it is, advertising in the end, right? Any form of great advertising is strategic clarity, is courage, creative courage, because ultimately you have to have the confidence that your product belongs in that editorial environment or in that creative environment in a legitimate way, right? And I think it'd be a fair thing to say that most efforts today in India and abroad falter on that front, because you don't have the strategic clarity around what the brand stands for, what story you want to tell. You don't have the consistency with which you want to represent that story over time. And therefore, regardless of how many people you reach, if that's the metric you judge the success of that piece by, which is only one aspect of what good branded integrations should be able to deliver for you, then you're going to fail, regardless of how many people you reach through that particular vehicle or that integration. So I think that's the really big question here, which is ultimately, if it is a means to connect or get the brand out to a large audience in a powerful way, the same principles that apply to great advertising apply to great branded content. People have to be interested in that stuff. And I can give you, a couple of lenses through the work that we've done at the agency. We work with Red Bull, lucky to work with Red Bull. Great example of perhaps the only real kind of example anywhere in the world of brand building that has been done primarily on the back of branded content. Yeah. And that's because there's a very clear commitment to what the brand is about, the courage to be able to do it a certain way, and therefore the recognition that this stuff that we're going to put out has to be interesting enough for people to see. And it's not ever designed to be mediocre, right? The attempt always is to compete with entertainment. And the only reason they can do it is because that is a primary vehicle through which they want to land what Red Bull is about. We've done a lot of interesting work of, in content for platforms themselves, right? We work for Spotify, we work for Netflix. Yeah. That stuff is a different type of challenge, right? Where you have to respect the editorial environment of the platform. Exactly. Because you're already speaking to a community that's engaged in that platform. So I would say, to your question on measurement, going back to the top, I actually think that the brand metric, the long-term commitment to your branded content efforts is perhaps the single most important metric. And I am not entirely sure that's being measured consistently, certainly not a reach metric alone.
True.
But linking that back to your brand health, whatever way you define it as a brand, and your connection to that community through to the last mile, right? And your ability to be able to seal the deal at the point of purchase. I don't quite see a measurement system today for branded content that reflects that full funnel, but that's what it's going to be if you have to get it right.
I think we all should.
Sorry, I just
please.
wanted to add, I completely agree with what Aditya is saying. And to my mind, I go back to the consumer, what Pradeep said, what Aditya said. If it's right for the consumer, if it fits into the storytelling, is when it will be right for the brand. I mean, it being right for the brand and not being right for the consumer is a definite failure. And if I were to take examples of great pieces of branded content, not Indian, and slightly different from the, way we look at branded content is perhaps what, Barbie the movie did for Mattel.
Yeah,
Or what the Mario movie has done for Nintendo. Or,
Lego, all of Lego stuff. Yeah.
All of Lego, yeah, you're right. And honestly, what, at least from a personal point of view, what Drive to Survive has done to Formula One. I mean, it was considered such an elite and, 40-plus men's sport. And now I see just so many people, including, and it's a personal example because I had nothing to do with Formula One. My husband was a fan. But I got hooked to Drive to Survive thanks to Netflix. And that has seriously sort of expanded the base of the sport. And literally, Formula One has got resurrected and got a new set of young fans. And, people who are on the periphery, because now those brands and those engineers and those drivers as human beings. And now I look at Formula One and then I want to watch Drive to Survive to say, now what lens have they taken to this season? So I think those are pieces of content done right, and that is the impact a brand should look for. What is the eventual end game for me that this branded content will lead to? And not ki acha shaadi mein, will she use the right makeup brand? Matlab shaadi hogi ki nahi wo bhi pata nahi hai, but that makeup brand should be front and center.
Well,
that is when it fails.
Yeah, sure, Pradeep.
Can I just add a little bit to that? I completely echo what she's saying. But taking on from what Aditya said, here is a brand that he spoke about that has the courage of integrity in ensuring that its branded content is not pushing the product, but the message is implicit, right? Yes. When a Felix Baumgartner jumps from the top of near common line, near space, and comes all the way coming down to the ground, when you see young boys doing mountain biking in amazing manner that literally your heart is in your hand, it does not push the product. But the product's signature, the product's promise is all over there. And that's what makes it awesome. And that's what branded content should be all about.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I think it's the emotional resonance when, while you're watching the content, but, that emotional resonance which the brand relates to, if the brand is able to, trigger the same response, that's
consumer right before brand right.
Exactly. But I think, this is a question to all of you here. Do we agree as as stakeholders of the ecosystem? Do you agree at large that there should be better metrics or proper metrics? Because for the betterment of the entire ecosystem. Because I know that for a fact that as of now, if a brand is coming back to me, then probably it has worked for the brand in the past, and hence the brand is trying to repeat it. But, for us, can we agree, or do we agree that there is a need for better measurement systems so that even we can, strategize accordingly? So, this is a question, yes or no question to you. What do you think?
Oh, it's a yes for me.
I mean,
for
you,
clear
for sure.
about it. I don't think we've got the right metrics. I will say, though, that it varies from situation to situation, from brand to brand. In some cases, it's about bringing in new audiences. In some cases, it's about creating a kind of new stream of revenue. In some cases, it's about delivering on an aspect of the brand that is critical to that brand's success. In some cases, it's a primary vehicle to get word out. So it could be any of these things, and the better the measurement, the more clarity you have on what you're trying to achieve, And yes, we're short of that.
Sure. Thank you, Aditya.
I have a slightly different take on what Aditya just said. Now, I do agree that brands need to have a measure so that the investments that is going into a brand can be justified by way of the returns that a brand is getting. And now, obviously, other than recall and other parameters that are there, it's the sales number that typically is the litmus test of whether the brand is being successful or not. However, the brand narrative and the brand communications don't exist in the isolated universe of print or television or digital or branded content or OTT. Even as you're watching branded content on OTT, it is possible that you are influenced by an outdoor campaign, by a digital campaign, and therefore the efficacy of the campaign need not necessarily be attributable to a single factor of communication. So therefore, to my mind, I think marketers need to take a pragmatic look at their overall return on the brand in terms of brand objectives getting met, rather than trying to fine tune and split the hair and narrow slice the outcomes of each and every initiative to be able to arrive at that conclusion. Because if you were to look at the econometric model, all of them have a delta which ultimately contributes to the outcome. However, if you are trying to get a specific return assessment done analytically on every segment of investment that you're making, you will probably find that all of them are unjustified. So, so we just need to take a bit of a little bit of balance.
You're absolutely right about that. I think it comes back to the original point. The clearer you are about what the brand stands for, actually it becomes easier to make those measurements. But 100% with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I agree. And yes, to your original question, I think yes, absolutely. But it would be different for different brands in terms of what it is that they measure. And I think that consistency of messaging across channels and the fact that the sum of parts is sort of, the whole is larger than the sum of parts is, I think, essentially absolutely true. If we start, and we have started doing it, unfortunately, which is slicing and dicing to measure the impact of every marketing channel, I think it's never going to be mathematically, right.
Thank you, Anuja. So, I mean, the insights really helps, but we need to keep a track of the time. So I'll have to take you to the next question, which I have for you. And I think this is an interesting one, which most of us would certainly relate. It's actually on the topic of short form versus long form, but just hold on to it. Like, my question is that we have seen that how short form content has taken over, and it's essentially the same audience who is consuming short form content and will also eventually watch a long form OTT web series. Yes. But as we have seen that because of the overconsumption of short form content, our attention span has dropped, right? Even for a 1 minute reel, you need to say, watch till the end. That's where we have arrived. So my question is, have you observed that this change in probably, if I can say, human behavior at large, or at our behavior at large, has become challenging for long form content with respect to retention rates, or you feel that no, it's a different environment and the same person can act differently in different environment. What's your opinion on that? Do you feel it's challenging or long form, the behavior of consuming short form content doesn't impact the behavior of consuming a long form impact? What's your opinion on that, Anuja, if I may have?
So sort of let me split the answer into two parts. I think when it is from a business POV, all of us hate the fact that short form is taking over. Why? Because short form is not getting monetized the way we would all like, and long form is where the monetization is. Honestly, if you were to equate short form and long form, happily we would be okay to have cuts of short form and long form of the same content, as long as monetization sort of is synchronous. That not being the case, of course, the whole industry is endorsing for long form. But from a consumer perspective, I think different strokes for different folks and different strokes for the same folks at different times. Because I think short form, and all of us are consumers here, right? So, short form has a different role to play in my life. I have 10 minutes. I just want a, like a quick gratification. And then long form has the whole lean back, I want to be relaxed. I want to watch this content at leisure kind of role to play. But short form can also play the role of being a way of discovery to long form. We have used it quite often at Shemaroo, where a lot of reels are used to just entice you into watching that long form content. I think everybody is doing it. Yes. And that is one thing that works. But yes, I think the biggest worry that the entire industry has is long form is shrinking. And if monetization doesn't keep pace when it comes to short form, it's something that we are all worried about.
Sure. So I mean, you mentioned that short form, I mean, long form is shrinking. Do you attribute this reason?
Eyeballs are shrinking.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. All right, thank you. Pradeep, a quick take, just.
Sure. So, about 8 or 9 years ago, pre-pandemic, there was a similar session where I did a keynote presentation around continuous partial attention, CPA. And what that essentially meant is that audiences are now having very small slices of time in which to consume content and react and therefore engage with it. And I was foolish enough to predict that the long form content is actually going to die. I could not be far from, correctness in that one. And now I realize, having gone through a full cycle, that all forms of content continue to have a life of their own.
Yeah.
They have different meaning for consumers.
Yeah.
In which the narrative sort of gets explained, the story gets absorbed, and the audience kind of relates to it or engages with it. Having said that, I do believe that shorter form content lends itself far more easily to brand communications, and especially since we are speaking in the context of branded content, than longer form content, because the ability to sustain a brand narrative in a long form content becomes extremely, extremely tricky, because either it compromises the integrity of the brand communication or the story narrative. In a short form, it's far more easier to blend because you have that very short window in which your message and the content is kind of interwoven. Yeah. And therefore, I think it is a beautiful sort of gift for marketers today to be able to use short form content, apart from obviously using it to leverage and build audiences around your long form content, but to get messages out as well. And I, for one, am a firm believer of the fact that the limitations that exist on short form should go away. I mean, whatever political or economic reasons we may have for banning TikTok, it is driving large consumer and brand engagement world over.
Yes.
Indeed.
And I'm hoping that if somebody in the US actually takes over TikTok, we may have it back in India, because all its lookalikes have not really managed to take off. And today you have reels everywhere, right? Yes. Whether you go to Facebook, which is the older generation stuff, or IG, or any platform you go to. I mean, reels is YouTube. Yeah. Is what is driving. I mean, to an extent, there's a recent statement by Neil Mohan, the CEO of YouTube, saying that people are watching shorts on larger screen televisions more than they're watching it on their mobile phones. I mean, that's the shape of things to come. So I remain very optimistic about the future of short form content, and I remain very optimistic about the future of long form content. Long story short, since the days as, tribals, we used to gather around firewood and, tell stories to each other, the concept of story taking and storytelling and that narrative building will always be there. Yeah. The formats may keep changing, but this business is here to stay, and we'll all keep rocking.
Thank you.
Invite you to some of our client meetings.
Love to join.
And get him to put all those brands on EROS movies, okay?
Sure. Thank you, Pradeep. So, Pradeep, yeah, I think as you mentioned about YouTube and Neil Mohan, so that actually, it triggers another question. So it so happened that recently a statement from Amir Khan that sparked a debate. My question is for you. I just want to have your view on that. Where, it was all over the social media, where he actually mentioned, shared his opinion on probably a flawed, business model from theater to the OTT model, or theatrical release to the OTT model, where he said that you either, pay to watch a movie on theater, or if you don't pay, we will come at your home and deliver it for free. And that garnered a lot of debate. And having said that, just I think a few weeks after his statement, we see that his next movie has been announced, probably to be released on YouTube at a pay-per-view model. So my question to you is, because this is relatively, probably a first-time incident, which, I might be wrong, but I have seen it for the first time that a large film has been announced to be released and has skipped OTT and is going pay-per-view on YouTube. So my question to you is, how do you view this entire scenario, and do you see it setting a precedent of a new avenue for upcoming films in the industry?
Sure, and I think we've all sort of followed that. You see, the bottom line is that for Amir Khan films and for Sitare Zameen Par, which is the movie under question, I think it does set up a trend for them. They want to experiment with some new way of go-to-market, and this way of going to the market is what makes sense for them commercially. That's perfectly all right. I don't see, personally, this being any radical move away from the way content is monetized in our ecosystem, right? Sure. I mean, the traditional model was theatrical releases first, followed by satellite, followed by digital, followed by, or rather in tandem going to ancillaries like airlines and cruise ships and so on and so forth. And then subsequently appearing on YouTube on a pay-per-view model. All they're doing is putting it on the head and going with YouTube as a pay-per-view model to begin with. Let us acknowledge the fact that YouTube is today perhaps the largest streaming service in the world.
I was just going to say YouTube is the biggest OTT in the world anyway.
Absolutely it is, and we all acknowledge and accept that fact. The minute you say that YouTube is, or rather not an OTT but an adjunct to an OTT, then you are defining or slicing the market in a very different way. Then how do you compare an Amazon Prime Video and a Netflix? Are both OTTs? Amazon Prime Video is only about promoting the Amazon Prime services because, I mean, unless in the next 2 weeks when they start advertising, there was no other revenue model for Amazon Prime Video. Yet, you had all the latest content coming there because the idea was to build recall for Amazon Prime so that you go there, you get 1 day free shipping, you buy all the stuff on Amazon and move your buying habits into moving it to online Amazon. Netflix was all about charging for content. So these are all various commercial models, and I wouldn't be surprised if even more new commercial models keep coming up so that this industry keeps remaining, keeps trying to experiment with newer format, newer monetization methodologies. So I think more power to Amir and more power to the Amir Khan production team. I mean, let's see how this plays out. Maybe it will open up a new path for monetization for us. The more ways of monetization, the more happy I am. Whatever the means be, it doesn't matter.
So, yeah. So, I mean, do you still agree that it might set a precedent in the coming time?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it does because it opens up more revenue avenues for us.
Sure, thank you. Aditya, do you see it as a landmark moment? Just a short comment on this.
No, I mean, listen, I think the panel's already addressed that. It is a streaming platform for all practical purposes. I think they've just structured that commercial deal a little bit differently from how you historically do it. There is a bigger point being made, though, right? And I think it's true for all kinds of creative content that you produce, which is to be conscious of the distribution and the choices that you make with distribution and pricing and what it does to either limit or expand an audience, right? And I think that was the point he was making, which is that, listen, you want to be mindful of the trade-offs, which is true for brands as well, right? Of how much you protect the brand, where it is available, and what you do with the pricing, which is perhaps the single most important thing that the brand does, which is to allow you to extract a premium for the quality that you put in to that product. So yeah, it is. I mean, it's an interesting way to go to market. Is it radical and revolutionary? I'm not entirely sure. I think this kind of the idea of pay-per-view is a well-established practice, and YouTube, honestly, these are just pipes here. How you see it, from a consumer perspective. Pradeep made that point, you're looking at shorts on a big screen. Our children won't tell the difference here between streaming and linear and connected TV and it'll just be interesting stuff that's delivered to them through whichever screen they have access to. So either you're responsible for access on the distribution side, or you're responsible for creating really interesting stuff, right? And the people who do those two things really well are the ones that are going to win the future, right? It sounds simple, but really that's all it is. It's hard to do, but it is.
But I guess only time will tell, and if it's a successful, and as Pradeep rightly said, if it's successful, it's the ecosystem which benefits eventually. So, we just hope for the best. Sure. So I think that brings me to my next question, which is for Aditya. I'd love to have your opinion on that. So just for the panel, while I was just researching, I just wanted to have the perspectives of filmmakers who try to, because I couldn't find a panelist, a filmmaker panelist. I wish I would have one, but I just, in my research, when I was speaking to one of my friends, Farhan, who runs a media production house called Salt Media. So his upcoming series is about to come, I think, first copy, which is releasing on Amazon next month. Now, one of the challenges what he highlighted I mean, he highlighted a point I want to know from you, whether it's a challenge or not. That he mentioned that, he did find it challenging and to integrate brand, and most, as per his observation, he mentions that it's a challenge in the industry where, it's more of retrofitting brand integrations once the production is wrapped up, rather than a proactive approach. Now, it's just his opinion. I want to know from our panelists that, do you think it's an outlier, or we see, there's a challenge there of retrofitting brand integrations? And if it's a challenge which exists, then, can something be done, proactively, so that, we can see more of proactive collaborations and brand integrations? Because, if brands and storytellers can collaborate at the beginning and at a scripting stage, I think the result is way more beautiful than trying to fit in a brand once the production is wrapped up. So yeah, I just want to know from you, what's your opinion on that?
Your friend's challenge is a very real challenge.
Is it?
I think he's absolutely right. I think we will all accept that the norm today is what you call retrofitting. Is absolutely right. That's what's happening. You have a piece of content and you try and kind of shoehorn the brand into it, right? And I think we've talked about how that's not always. Sometimes it can work. Sometimes you have a story that's made for a brand in the right kind of spirit and the right environment, and it can work. But more often than not, it doesn't. And a lot of this also has to do with the sensibility of the marketing team and the agencies in question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we have lost the don't want to be that dramatic, but we're losing a lot of the judgment of good aesthetic choices, good creative choices, the value of craft.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of scientificifying everything. There's a word for that.
Science
Kind of
before
measure
art.
Measure
Science
everything.
before art.
Yeah,
I agree.
put everything in a box, try and kind of shove measurement down everything. But there is a craft to storytelling. Mm-hmm. There is a value to, to design, which, and that applies to your content choices as well, which is why we were all originally in the business. And I think we have to assert that as creators, as agency folk, and as brand owners. We have to put a price on the way we tell our stories. And for that, being clear about what the brand stands for, and then ensuring that there is integrity in the way in which we tell those stories is the way to do it. And if you do that right, you should be able to commit to long-term content development where this problem doesn't happen, where the brand comes in at the top of the process, right at the end.
Exactly. And eventually it's a win-win, right? If you are able to get brands on board at the top of the process, it's a win-win, right? So, but yes, though my question was for Aditya, but if I can just have quick inputs, do you resonate to this challenge in the industry?
I agree, and therefore I think the one part of storytelling, I know we sometimes don't consider it as storytelling fully, but which has done a good job is actually reality TV. It's much easier to integrate brands and brand messages powerfully when it comes to, let's say, a Coffee with Karan or a Big Boss. And I think brands see far better jump in their metrics with the content like that. I was giving you this example yesterday. I mean, Amul MasterChef, if you put another brand there, it just doesn't resonate, right? It's because it's just been something that the brand is known for. It fits very well with the narrative of the show.
It becomes synonymous.
So, exactly. So, I think we need to do what reality did so well with brands and figure how we do it in fictional storytelling as well to get that message through in a very art right way and not just science right way. So,
I think we've been told we're out of time.
Yeah.
I was just going to wait for her to finish and then I was going to jump in.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at you.
I'll just bring in one angle to this and then we can wrap it up and hand over to you.
We are already at the end of the panel.
Okay, so we'll just take a minute.
I was just about to give 30 seconds to Pradeep for his insights and
Much
then we are wrapping.
So I think what both Anuja and Aditya are saying are absolutely spot on. There's just one more dimension here, why this happens. And it's probably already known to you guys. See, the creative narrative storytelling in the initial phases is controlled by the person who's driving the creative aspect of the film. So in other words, it's the kurtas or the tees and shorts that are driving the creative development. But once the films are ready, it's the suits that take over. And the minute the suits take over, they are trying to now figure out whether I have the economic model for this film, whether I have advanced sales on streaming, whether my theatrical is going to do, and then they figure out, oh, this is the gap that I need to bridge. Bring in the brands and bring in the bands and let's have some song and show. So that's what happens in this industry. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. We need to find a better way of doing it.
So well explained. I hope my friend Farhan gets his answer. And hopefully we find solutions.
But is it the kurta or the suit?
Yeah, that's probably the best, right? Well, thank you so much. And again, if I can just borrow 3 more minutes, 1 minute each, just to conclude, please. Just 1 minute strictly on your, anticipation for the, for the OTT and the streaming era for the next decade. As we spoke, the past decade we have seen enormous growth. Any predictions or anything, any message for the ecosystem, all stakeholders, how you see, so that we all are prepared, geared up, and orient ourselves accordingly. Any message?
Okay, less than 1 minute.
Less than 1 minute.
I promise.
Time starts
yes.
now.
I think. Yes, I think we've seen a lot of great stories come in, a lot of pushing the envelope that has happened, especially in the context of India. But I think authentic, bold, consistent, courageous, storytelling is what we are looking for, and expanding that pie of consumers who are on OTT, and sort of that is where life is going to evolve, and make it brand right by making it viewer right first.
Thank you, Anuja. Yes, Pradeep.
I'll just make a short statement. AI, generative, agentic AI, synthetic voices and synthetic characters are going to change our entertainment universe like never before, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. It's going to be mind-boggling.
That just intrigues me for another panel, but unfortunately I can't. But thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that's a topic for another panel for sure. Thank you.
Yes, like a good old school advertising person, regardless of how we do it, for brands, for creators, as long as it's interesting and it's relevant and it's beautiful, there will always be people wanting to listen to it, watch it, and consume it. And we've got to just keep flying that flag for creativity and insight and empathy, and we'll be okay.
Absolutely. So I hope the gist is that the fundamentals of the industry are going to remain the same. We need to focus on authentic content, and I think everything else will follow suit. So if that's the message, I thank all my panelists today. Thank you so much, Aditya, Pradeep, and Anuja. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the panel. Thank you.
But I'll ask you to please be seated, because Abhishek, in between, you did mention that it's a win-win situation. I want this to be a win-win for the audience as well. So in case you guys have any questions, we'll take quickly a couple of questions. Please raise your hand. Somebody will come with a mic to you. And I mean, it's a great platform. You should take this opportunity and get your answers right from the people here. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Love the panel. My question is for you, Aditya. Can't agree more with the beautiful examples of branded content that you mentioned. But we'll also agree that some brands are better placed to create beautiful branded content. A lot of other brands, it's a bridge they have to cross, right? If you were to give brand stakeholders a couple of lenses to look at branded content from when making a decision to go for branded content, I know it's quite generic. It has to be more specific for you to give a proper answer. But then if you were to give them 2 lenses to consider while looking at branded content, what would they be?
It's a great question. I would definitely look at brandedness, which is basically being clear about your story. I think that's super critical. Being able to answer that, as we were discussing with Red Bull, I think there's a certain level of clarity. You see that with Lego, you see that with Dove, and all of the places where it's done well, it's generally when the brand is really clear. So I would say that, 1, I mean, do all the work you have to be crystal clear about what the brand is, and 2, try and place yourself in an environment that is interesting, and not just the reach, right? Because I think that tends to be a temptation to kind of look at, and we've got in our roster, we're lucky to have another brilliant Royal Enfield, which we've been working with for 15 years, and it's a great example of doing that. It places itself in environments which feel very niche. When you look back 15 years, the places where they were present, the way of operating felt a little bit kind of on the fringes, but over time that bet always pays off, I think, because you're trying to do the right thing. So those would be the 2 lenses I would say. I mean, be very clear about the brand, and then try and do it in a way that's interesting, I would say, regardless of scale, to start with.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, Pawan, you're loud enough.
My doesn't need a mic.
Pawan, you don't need a mic. You do? Okay, take this.
Just a question from, okay.
You'll have to come back for it, Pradeep, because this question is for you. Abhishek,
We'll come back to you.
Abhishek said something which I completely agree with on one part and completely disagree with on the other. You said that the OTT space, streaming space has grown tremendously, or to the effect. Completely agree on in terms of the kind of content that's coming up. But I want to ask you here, Pradeep, because with due respect to everybody else, you're all great at what you do. Pradeep, you lead from the business and, etc. perspective, like Aditya also perhaps does. But here I'm talking about broadcast, streaming, movies, the whole shebang of production, which is all heavy investments. I know your next slate is coming out soon. I won't sort of break that news now, but it's a great slate that's coming up. The point I'm trying to make is that he said OTT is growing. Not a single, and I'm asking you this, Pradeep, your view, not a single OTT platform makes any money. Everybody is in a big red hole. There is no black on the balance sheet. Not even for, forget the capex. Even on subscriber revenues, perhaps maybe a Netflix makes some money. The point I'm trying to make is that while everybody is very excited about this great content, and you did mention that long and form, short form has their, customers everywhere. What is your view? He spoke about the next decade, he asked you all. I ask you for the next 1 year or two, when do you, if you see it at all, see the streaming spaces breaking even in India enough to be able to sustain the great Gujarati content that Shemaroo is doing, the great Telugu content that AHA is doing, and all the others, all the regional ones. What is your view on that? And sorry, as four people who are very interested in and knowledgeable about the space, do you have a single 3 or 4 point agenda that you want to give to the industry, saying on measurement, on this, that, and the other? What do we need to do to come together? Otherwise, we'll have such brilliant people speaking, but there is nothing coming out of it as far as trying to give the industry a nudge. That's the thought I have.
Sure,
but your view on the future.
Yeah. So that's a great question, but it's actually a very longer answer, but I'll give you answers in 2 parts. The first part, very clearly, OTTs are growing is what Abhishek said, and I agree with him. Now the question is on what dimension are you measuring growth? If you're measuring growth on the quantum of content that's available, the diversity of content, the diversity of languages, the increase in audiences, yes, there is growth. If you're measuring it purely from a financial lens of balance sheet assets and P&L and profitability, perhaps there will be a challenge. If you're looking at it from an industry context standpoint, in terms of consolidation, yes, the smaller OTTs, by their sheer inability to continue to pump in content, will tend to get phased out, and there will be consolidation of the top 3 or 4. But that logic of Pareto applies in probably every industry and not just in streaming. So I would say that we are looking at a qualitative view of the streaming business, saying that yes, it is an industry poised for growth and will continue to grow. From an economic or from a business or P&L standpoint, clearly we have some challenging times ahead, especially given the the dimension of technology that I brought out, which will actually hasten the death of some of the non-invested streamers that are not really keeping pace with the technology changes in it and are not able to put adequate capital into running that business. The second part of your question was around the branded content and the fact that how does sorry.
Stop asks for.
Yeah, why don't you take that?
No. I'm just repeating the
Go right
question.
ahead.
No, I think the question Pawan had was, what would be your top asks from the...
No, I just want to add just one small thing. Maybe we can take this asks and all offline. Enough time has already gone with this wonderful panel. But the point I'm making, I also want to add is, if you look at all the OTT platforms, over the last so many years, 2015 Hotstar came in, And before that, so many
Sir,
others also
I'm
did.
so sorry, I will have to cut you.
I just
because
need to
we
make-
have another panel. We probably can take this as a one-on-one thing during
Okay,
the high
I'll
tea.
just make a statement and I'll get out.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All the broadcasters, which are big and which have the monies, everyone is nursing a nursing and a sick little OTT platform, which is not making money at all. And if over the last 10 years or so, not one has made money, the future does indeed look very, very bleak on the business side of things. For how long will it be money in and nothing out, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, thank you.
It's a fair point, yeah. It's a fair point.
Thank you. Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's give it up for them.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know how many of you have noticed or realized, I just used this panel to subtly integrate my friend Farhan's upcoming web series, First Copy. I hope it was a good branded content integration. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aditya, Pradeep, Anuja, and Abhishek.